What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Genex Knives Primarch 6. Now this is in via the Lefty passaround group, and this is a pretty bougie knife. It came in a pretty bougie package. So you have the Rake Knives Tissot 1 that I did my full review on yesterday, and now you guys are seeing my full review on the Primarch 6. So huge shout out to Kevin over at Lefty EDC for allowing us to check this stuff out. And I'm going to say, guys, this is not my cup of tea. You guys know I like pretty basic designs, and this is definitely a more elevated, more fancy, more bougie, whatever adjective you want to throw at it, design. Definitely out of my, price range. For one, it's a pretty hefty, price tag on the knife, in my opinion. And it's definitely out there with all the Zircuti accents and, the design and everything like that. But I enjoyed getting to check it out because, I would never have gotten to check this out if, I would never go out and buy this. So that is a definite perk of being part of the Lefty group, is you getting, to check out some pretty dope stuff that you never normally would. So pretty quick here, we're going to jump into the beginning of the review, go over the materials, and go on from there as I normally do. But like I said, this is Genex blades, which I am not familiar with them. This is the first I've ever heard of them when Kevin tossed this in the pass-around group and said it was a pretty interesting knife. They are made by Riot, or manufactured by Riot, and Get Good Screw, who makes really, again, bougie and cool bit drivers. Kevin has done some stuff with them in the past. They are, I believe, the international dealer to Genex blades, and I believe that the Primarch is their first and only design as of right now. Now, like I said earlier, this is the Primarch 6. There are 6 different variations of this knife, starting with the Primarch X, which is we'll start with this one. So the Primarch 6 is a titanium frame lock with Zircuti inlays on the scale, on the pivot, and then you have a zirconium thumb stud on both sides. And then there you have the Zircuti inlay as well. You have a clip that is on a spring that is kind of interesting. It's the first knife I've ever handled that, has that mechanism, which is kind of cool. You have a frame lock right there with a lock bar insert and a relief cut back there. The pivot and all of these screws have this interesting, I don't know if that's a spanner bit or what exactly it is, but it is not a typical T6 or T8. Very, very large, again, zirconium thumb studs. You have a very interesting compound harpoon tanto style blade that has a very, very nice deep hollow grind right there with a chisel ground part of the tanto out here. And again, you have that nice harpoon. To me, this knife reminds me of a rhinoceros, which we'll get to in the aesthetic. There is the Genex blades logo right there. You have it's like a semi-integral or integral knife with some very, very interesting, milling on the backspacer right there, kind of a clamshell package. There is some internal milling on both sides. This is a pretty hefty knife. Here you have Genex blade, if you guys can pick that up right there. And on the other side, you have Primarch. I don't know if my phone get enough lighting. It's right in there, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so the Primarch 6 is this version right here. You have the Primarch 5, which is, instead of having this style of inlay right here, you have, looks like 5 speed holes cut in, and then the inlay of the Zircuti is set down in the speed holes. You have the Primarch 4, which is the same design as this, but it has carbon fiber instead of Zircuti. You have the Primarch 6, which still has the Zircuti. They actually all have the Zircuti pivot, but the Primarch 6 is 4 circular speed holes instead of the rectangular or square speed holes before, with no inlay. You have the Primarch 2, which is the same speed hole design as the 5th one, but no Zircuti underneath it. And then you have the Primarch 1, which is just a full titanium scaled knife with only the Zircuti on the pivot. And then you have the granddaddy of them all. You have the Primarch 6, which is just so in your face. I think it's kind of ugly looking. I'm not a fan of these types of knives, but it has a full Damascus blade, and then the whole handle is Zircotie. So this material right here is the entire handle scale on both sides, and I think it's tacky looking. I'm not a fan of those those styles of, I think Zircotie in general is a little bit tacky looking. I've never been a fan of it. And then you have the Damascus, which I'm also not a huge fan of, but that is a $1,300 knife, and I think that is just, it might be not a value, but it might be worth it to you guys out there that like that type of stuff. But to me, that is just a severe overpay for, two things that look pretty ugly. And the blade steel. I forgot the blade steel. You have Van X Super Clean, which is really good. I love Van X. Very, very rust proof, which is great for, guys like me that sweat a lot. Says it right there on the tang of the blade. So Van X is a very, very good steel. So as far as materials are going, you have Van X, you have titanium frame lock with some pretty cool Zircotie inlays. 5 out of 5, pretty darn cool. Yes, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I can appreciate it when it comes to, things like this. It's definitely not as much in your face as some of the other ones are. So I definitely can appreciate that. So we'll go 5 out of 5 on the materials. Next up, we have aesthetic. I'm not in love with this knife. Like I said earlier, it looks like a rhinoceros with the blade out here. Kind of has like the horn on top and then down here. And that's just giving me those types of vibes. It's definitely not, an ugly knife, but it's definitely not the most attractive knife in my opinion. It does have, the handle has pretty, simple lines. You have some nice ridges up here, comes down around, has some grooves, has a really nice recessed groove right there for your finger. When it comes to ergos, the ergos are very comfortable. I will say that it's going to get pretty high remarks when it comes to the ergonomics of the knife. As far as aesthetic goes, I'll go 4.5, just because I can appreciate, I've said it a few times, but I don't like Zircotie, but when it's not like blasted in your face like the entire scale is on the Primarch X, I can appreciate it. So I'll go 4.5 on the aesthetic, and I can appreciate, cool futuristic designs like this on some knives. Other knives, they're pretty darn ugly, but on this one, it's pretty good looking. So next up is action. This has a very, very snappy detent. Action all around is very good. Again, those thumb studs are just oversized and very, very large, but they give you good grip or good, leverage on the knife, and it just flips out very, very well. There is a little bit of blade play. However, I was not able to, tune it to a little bit tighter. Actually, I guess I didn't think to check in the box. I don't know if like that style of bit is in the package that it came in, but there is a little bit of blade play, which might make it a little bit smoother on the close. But as far as detent goes with the thumb flick, works very, very well. Middle finger flick flies out of there. You just get nice leverage right there behind it, and it just pops right out. One cool thing with the backspacer that I forgot to show is it has kind of this little point down here that the blade sits in, which I think is pretty cool. I really like when knives do that with their designs. But yeah, middle finger flick works really good. Thumb flick works really good. You can index finger flick it as long as you are off of that lock bar. Honestly, as long as you're not putting like a ton of pressure on it, it fires out very, very well. You can, of course, slow roll it out very nice. It actually works really good with those oversized thumb studs. And then you guys can see the drops to your nail. It's just ridiculous action. And again, I don't know if maybe if it was tighter with the pivot being a little bit, loose, if it would hinder that at all. But I believe I read that this has like some sort of special bearing system on it. And it works very, very well. And you guys can see, it drops to your nail, the flipper tab. And all I got to do is get my nail out of the way, or thumb out of the way, and it pretty much drops. You can do that, of course. I hate doing it though because I'm afraid it's going to cut my finger. But there we go. You just kind of got to get locked in, and you can be repetitive with this, but it is nice to have that just constant up, down, up, down. So as far as the action goes with the Primarch 6, very, very good, very fun to fidget with. We'll go 5 out of 5 on that one. Next up is the acoustics. You get a very nice resounding thwack. Missing that high pitchness, but I really do like the way this knife sounds. is it perfect? No, because again, you're missing those high-pitched tings you can get from titanium frame locks. And there is internal milling. I don't know if maybe some more milling would have maybe allowed it to get those high-pitched tings and rings that you can achieve, but it doesn't. But I think it's very, very good, and I'm very pleased with the knife. I'm sure my wife is getting annoyed with me flicking it this many times, but yeah, very, very nice, satisfying thwack. Again, is it perfect? No, but I think it's good enough to get a 4.5 on the acoustics, which leads me to ergos. Actually, real quick, I just popped in my mind. I forgot to give you guys some specs on the knife with links and everything like that, so I apologize. But the blade length is coming in right around 3.5 inches. Overall length from tip to butt is coming in around 8.25. And is weighing, it said grams, so I had to translate it. This thing weighs almost 7 ounces. It says anywhere from like 170 to 200 grams, so it's anywhere from like 6 to 7 ounces, probably depending on which model you get and how much milling is going on. But 7 ounces is a pretty heavy knife, which is coming into ergos, kind of slides right in there. 7 ounces is a pretty heavy knife, but honestly, the ergonomics with this thing is super, super comfortable. You have pretty much some rounding off up here, but it's pretty much even keel until it gets to the back, and then it tapers off. Then you have a, recession right there, and then a really nice, finger groove right there as well. I can get all 4 fingers on this knife very, very comfortably. The pot clip is, rounded off, and it's kind of a flat pot clip, so it's kind of forming into your hand a little bit better rather than like real skinny, kind of sharper ones. But this thing is just super, super comfortable. You have jimping up top here for your saber grip. Hammer grip works really good. You can slide up into that harpoon, which is awesome if you're doing push cuts. You have that extra leverage, and with this kind of recurve, tanto, harpoon, whatever the blade shape you want to call it is, this hollow grind, if you're like cutting through cardboard, this is just going to eat into it really good. Again, you have that little bit of a recurve, so it keeps the blade in, and I really personally like having my thumb up here because it just gives you that extra kind of oomph if you need it. You can choke up and kind of use this little area up here for a landing point, but you are very, very close to the blade, so you just have to be careful of what you're doing and be aware that your finger can slide onto that blade at a moment's notice. But all the titanium, no sharp edges. It really just melts into your hand, which I really enjoy that because a lot of futuristic designs, and I say futuristic, it might not be to you, but to me, this is more kind of, in your face, out there design. A lot of those are oftentimes not very comfortable. So I really, can appreciate them designing a very ergonomic and very comfortable knife to use while still being, more on that edge of things when it comes to designs. So it's going to get a 5 out of 5 with the ergos. Very, very comfortable. And I really enjoyed, anytime I would be, not necessarily using this knife because I didn't use it a whole lot, but, I would just be kind of fidgeting with it and playing with it. And I'd be like, man, this thing is super, super comfortable. So 5 out of 5 on that. Next up is carry. Not going to lie, guys, I did not love the carry on this knife. I think the spring clip is cool. It's a little gimmicky, but I mean, it does work. You just slide it down in your pocket when you're ready, open it, slide it down in. It's not deep carry. You have about that much knife sticking up out of your pocket. And when you have a pointed design like this with kind of a pointier end to the knife and the backspacer, not my favorite, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. And it is pretty heavy. Like I said, 7 ounces is a kind of a brick in my pocket. And I think I carried this maybe once in gym short or my khakis or my bird dogs, and it's just to me this is too big and too heavy of a knife to carry. Like I mean, and it's summertime, so here, or not summertime, I guess it's technically fall here in Pennsylvania, but it is still warm out. So I'm much gonna prefer to carry smaller knives, but I did want to try it just to see. And it's okay. I'm definitely not used to carrying big heavy knives because you guys know I tend to gravitate more towards the smaller to medium-sized knives, but I mean it's okay. It's whatever. It's meh. It's not great. It's not horrible. It's just kind of middle of the road. And like I said, this pot clip is cool, but I don't think I would want. It's cool to experience it now and not have to keep the knife, because I don't think I would want a pocket knife in my collection with this style of thing. Because like I said, a little bit gimmicky, but I can appreciate it, and I guess. Again, it's cool to check it out, but it sits out in your pocket. Okay, you have no, flipper tab. You do have a little bit of jimping on the backspacer here, but nothing to, hinder maybe pulling the knife up out of your pocket if you're down below it getting anything. But I mean, yeah, we'll go 4 because I don't want to be too harsh on it. But again, I do think I'm going to give it some props for the clip, but I also, don't want to give it too much, if that makes sense. So we'll go with 4 and leave it at that. And that brings me to my final category of price point / value / would I recommend this knife. So as far as recommending it, I mean, if you guys are a fan of the design, which I guess we'll get the price tag first, because that'll kind of go with me recommending it. But the Primarch 6 went for, excuse me, $589, which is a pretty hefty price tag to pay. Unfortunately, I forgot to mention with you guys, every single version of this knife is currently out of stock, but I will still leave a link below to Get Good Screw, which you can see all 6 of them lined up. It says notify when available, but I also read something that said that this is the only time you can buy them is when they were currently available, or when they were available. Now they're currently not, so I don't know if the secondary is the only place you can get them, but regardless, $589 for this knife. I mean, to me that's just too much. I would much rather spend $600 on, that's getting to be like Oz Roosevelt levels. That's getting to be like you can get the Prince custom. I forget what the knife design is called, but I really like you can get really nice, Craig Brown CNC milled knives for this price range. You can get a coating Arius probably for this range. You can get, a lot of really good knives that I would much prefer to spend $600 on versus the Primarch. And that's not to say it's a bad knife, because it isn't. I mean, it's really good in a lot of ways, but it's just, too out there for me, and never would be a knife that I would ever consider picking up. As far as the other versions go, they start at $489. You can get the 2 plain tie versions, the one milled and the one not milled. So about $500 all the way up to $1,290 for the Primarch X is just crazy. So definitely not a value there in my opinion. But I can recommend it if you guys are into this design and you are comfortable spending that much. If you can find them in the secondary, or if they ever come back in stock, then sure, go for it. But I can't recommend it as a good value. I think the price, I guess you're getting zircuti and the cool clip and zirconium, so you're getting a lot of accents, I guess, baked in. But I don't have enough knowledge on this type of Boujee material to really say if it's a value or not. So to me personally, off the rip, not a value. But I guess it's, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. So for price point, value, recommendations, we'll go 4 again. I feel like that's a pretty fair score to give it. Which, let me count this up real quick and I'll give you guys a final score and see where it fits in my system. We'll go 1, 2, 3. So I have it coming in at 32, which lands it in the great category. And I think that's fair. To me, this is a great knife. It's not like fantastic. It's not bad. It's just kind of in that mid-range of like, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I would never buy it. Just kind of one of those one-time things that I'll probably forget about this knife in a couple weeks or months with other stuff across the table. And that's okay. But I enjoyed getting to check it out. And, as always, huge shout out to Kevin over at Lefty DC for allowing us to always check out cool stuff that, again, would never come across my table otherwise. But yeah, so leave a comment down below. What are your guys' thoughts on the Primarch 6? Is it, kind of on my way or my side of things with it being a little bit too out there? Or are you guys big fans of this style of knife and, materials used and everything like that? I would love to hear you guys have to say. But yeah, so this was my full review of the Genex blades, or Genex knives, Primarch 6. Yeah, so I'm gonna wrap this up now. But thank you guys again so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, day, week, whenever you're watching this. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.